Alright, so breaking down this team fight, first of all I just want to set up the situation at hand. We're missing all 3 inhibitors in this situation. We're really far behind, so it's important that we make sure that we get an engage going quickly, otherwise we will lose this game no matter what due to the Baron minions. So, in this situation, we actually come back from the base with our bonus movement speed, and we use our Righteous Glory to then get in on them and activate a Pulverize, and then headbutt the Tahm Kench in. That way we can go on him and get him out of the way, that way he can't eat anyone that we combo in. Now we're just frontlining right now, using our Locket. Making sure that we flash in and combo onto whoever's in front of us, and just headbutt the AD carry away, that way our teammates can finish off cleaning up the frontliners. After that, we use our ultimate to make sure that we don't die to the AD carry, and making sure that we identify when we want to use our ultimate to mitigate damage is critical. Because of this, we were actually able to get space enough that we were able to clean a bunch of minions out of the base and start for our inhibitors to come back up. So things that I want to tackle in this situation is as follows. First of all, the urgency in which you must do an engage. Sometimes it's just better to do an engage and lose than it is to watch your base cripple and die on champions like Alistar. So as you see right now, I just use my Righteous Glory immediately while I'm on the side because I see them mispositioning, and we use our Pulverize. Don't forget also Righteous Glory when it comes in vicinity of people will launch out a slow. This is what allows me to get on top of them without using my headbutt to combo in on them. After we've pulverized them, we begin to start ramping up our stun. As you can see now, we're starting to push forward and create a zoning tool right here where these players are by themselves, secluded, and the backline is starting to kite backwards. Because of that, I want to make sure that we guarantee a kill. So I just immediately headbutt the Tahm Kench in. And the reason for that is Alistar struggles a lot against Tahm Kench because he can usually eat whoever you combo onto. So I'm just trying to make sure we get him out as soon as possible. So because of that, we just use all of our CC on him, and as you can see, the AD carry is all the way over here. Because of that, I know that I do not need to use my ultimate in this situation or lock it, because my teammates aren't taking too much damage, and I'm not frontlining. Because of this, I'm able to buy a bunch of time, and my teammates are now starting to DPS him and push forward. Because we have a concave such as this, we do start to walk forward, and we want to make sure that we use our lock it on anyone frontlining for us, including ourselves, so we lock it our teammate. Next thing to note, our combo is coming up again, so we're standing directly on top of everyone, and I want to make sure that I guarantee the CC on all 3 of these players rather than only 2, so we commit our flash and pulverize all 3 of these people. After that occurs, we're now actually taking damage, so we need to be mindful of this since the AD carry is now DPSing us. Because of that, we're just going to headbutt him away and let our teammates finish off and clean up these 2 lower HP targets. That way no one's taking damage afterwards, and the teamfight has already won. Sometimes you don't actually need to kill everyone in the team, you just need to kill enough of them to buy yourself space so you can go back to the base and start clearing waves again. Because of that, I just headbutt him away. Once he starts DPSing me again, then I use my ultimate to stop any incoming damage. Especially in late game team fights, your damage mitigation is really important to use at the right times because AD carries do a ton of damage. And as you can see, now that the AD carry is only by himself, it buys us the time, like I said before, for our inhibitors to start coming up and for our team to start clearing out the waves. So just to recap, things to note in this team fight, make sure that you use your activatable items so that you can get on top of people to DPS them. Another thing to note too, don't use your ultimate unless you're taking a lot of damage in situations. Also, don't be afraid to use your flash just to hit a pulverize, that way you can DPS all of the players at once. And sometimes it's actually best for you to use your headbutt to push out damage dealers so that your DPS can continue to kill their front line when you're winning a team fight. Alright, to set up our team fight breakdown for this video, we're going to be looking at this situation as a whole. The enemy team has Zac, so Zac can get engages off whenever he can. Things to note in this situation is the Rift Herald has just been used and we've now lost our mid lane turret. We're starting to scoot back. So, as you can see right here from the position over here, Zac actually gets an engage off on our backline. Now the most important thing for us is just make sure that we keep everyone away from getting to our backline. So as you can see, we're just headbutting people away, using our pulverize, and just keeping everyone CC'd, which sets up a 3-man Ori ball. Now everything kind of happened in a really fast situation, but it's important to break down each of the things now to show why we're able to get Baron after this. So in a lot of situations, sometimes you just don't get engages off on champions like Alistar, so it's important to know when to play defensively and just zone in situations. So as you can see here, I've used my Righteous Glory and I'm looking for an engage. But as you can see for right here, their Zac is coming into my backline, and even if I combo on back here, most of my teammates will be zoned. Because of that, I just let the engage occur. As you can see, the 2 tanks right here. Neither one of these tanks do any damage, and my primary focus is actually first slowing down the Yasuo. Since Yasuo can press ultimate onto anyone that he knocks up, my first thing that I want to do is just headbutt him away. That way when he picks up any potential players here, or knocks them together, the Yasuo cannot cause his ultimate to CC them. Now as you can see right here, the Zac has already gone in, and we've effectively zoned pretty much all of the backline from connecting to any of my teammates, as you can see right here, because they're mostly healthy. The next thing that I do is I just walk at them while they're killing the Zac. Now the primary thing that I want to focus on is making sure that I'm stopping all the backline from connecting. So we use our ultimate immediately to start mitigating any damage that I'm taking. Next, you'll see me pulverize once the Yasuo tries to dash through me, preventing him from connecting to any of my backliners while they're freely just hitting the Zac the entire time and getting a kill. After that, because of the combo, our Orianna actually gets a really great shockwave and hits up 3 of them at once. Now as you see here, I've started to channel my trample. Next thing to note is now that we've killed their frontliner and we've been able to push forward, you see right here, our AD carry is dueling their AD carry, and he's actually at a pretty significant HP disadvantage. And now that we've stopped most of their engage and they're mostly cutting backwards, this is where we want to make sure that we just minimize the amount of damage that our carries take. So after we use our stun and CC on this Soraka to make sure that she's not healing anyone anymore, we also see the Yasuo cast his ultimate. Now in most situations, usually you just want to walk over and start hitting the AD carry, but since our AD carry has started at a lower HP threshold, what I want to do is just flash over and start auto-attacking him as fast as possible. That way, my AD carry can win the duel and do as much damage as possible. That way he's healthy and potentially doesn't die to the Cathian surprise, which is the Kog'Maw passive where he dies and walks up and blows up. By doing this, we also are able to keep our AD carry alive enough so that we can guarantee the Baron afterwards. So things that I want to tackle in this situation: when you are engaged on, don't panic. Just make sure that you're keeping people away from connecting to your backline. You're an incredibly tanky champion on Alistar, especially with Aftershock and your ultimate. Another thing to note, make sure that you're always popping your ultimate early. That way you're mitigating the maximum amount of damage and stay as healthy as possible. After that, just make sure that you recognize anyone that needs help in the fight after you've stopped the engage and you're now pushing forward because you've killed their front line. Now that you've seen me flash and then use the combo sequence, I want you to try it out for yourself. Load into a custom game against bots, but this time stand further away from them and use your flash as a gap closer before pressing your combo. Getting used to the range at which you can do this and the sequence of buttons to press for your keyboard is critical for pulling this off correctly and smoothly. So whenever you break out a laning phase, it's really important to make sure that you're controlling objectives well. And well, we've got the guide for you right here as our mid-game warding guide. Let's jump in. Alright guys, so now we'll be tackling how to ward in the mid-game. So we're going to be tackling a couple of stages of setups. So first we'll do each of the objectives, Dragon and Baron, and then we'll talk about how to set up Vision when neither of these objectives may be up. So let's start with Dragon Vision, and for starters we'll be doing the blue side first. So a lot of times when you want to set up Dragon, there's pretty much a primary focus of the situation. If the turrets start to die down and there's no turrets here, then I recommend that you walk to mid first. The reason for this is it gives you the easiest access to then walking down the river and getting vision down for your team. In most cases, you basically want your warding situation to be such as this. You usually want to ward over this wall. That way you can see whenever players are walking over in any way, shape, or form. If the mid laner is starting to push over and maybe wants to ward over the wall, or if anyone's coming through this corridor, you can always see them. That way you can utilize this brush and this brush to potentially shoot skill shots over there when they're coming in. I recommend that you try to get a pink both here and here. Now, if you're a support, it just depends on the amount of pressure that that's going on. So, in a situation where you can push up mid extremely hard, and you don't have to worry about maybe the mid lane turret is dead, and you don't need to worry about the mid laner walking down and potentially walking through the river, and you're more concerned about this location right here, this pathway, then I recommend you use the pink ward right here. That way you have bush options to potentially set up people to get caught. In this situation, though, I would also recommend that you use a sweeper on whatever brush that you don't pink if your teammates aren't helping you with vision. After you have a ward right here, and hopefully it is more in the center, that way you can still see if mid laners are moving, and so you can see this corridor, I recommend getting a ward somewhere around here. Now, the main primary concern that you need to be worried about is a pink ward in this location. So in the case where you do know that there's a pink ward or are concerned about it, then I recommend moving the ward down a little bit more here. That way it's out of range of the pink, but still gives you the visibility over the wall. The other thing to be mindful of is on your third ward, it just depends on how the pressure is going. So in a situation where maybe the bot lane is constantly pushing in because you're mid lane right now, and you're concerned about them coming up the river, then I recommend using your third ward in this location. If that's not the case, then maybe after you push out mid, you get a ward more center in the mid lane, just so that you can see whether or not players like the mid lane or any of the other players are trying to cut down through this location. After that, you should be pretty set up to see all of the corridors for Baron in that situation. And that's going to be how we do it on blue side. Now we're going to kind of reset everything right now, and we'll go over to the example of being on the red side. So in this situation, same scenario as before, but this one's actually a bit more tricky because you need to get mid pushed out. Now, in this situation, you have 3 corridors to worry about, such as the same one as the other side, but this one is more middle, this ramp right here, and the tri-bush / cutting under bottom. So in this situation, you'll actually run into a lot more vision contesting. And what I mean by that is it's more likely that a pink ward is here, and maybe a pink ward is there, depending on the time in the game. Because of this scenario, you need to set up your wards in a way that allows you to not run into these, if you can't contest these pink wards, to adjust your vision. So in most cases, as the support, you want to walk to mid, once again, to prep for Baron. I recommend doing this about 45 seconds to a minute beforehand, and it usually takes about 15 seconds or so to walk to mid, so make sure you're calculating that in when you're channeling backs. So a lot of times the best way to go about it is just pink ward as far away as possible. That way no one can stand in this location right here and shoot over and take your pink ward. That's an important part of this. The next part is making sure that you ward over the wall. The reason why you ward like this is so that while you're sitting on your pink ward right here, you have options to shoot skill shots over the wall and potentially if the mid laner is trying to walk over and contest it. This also allows you to avoid running into this pink ward right here. Next, ideally, after you've established a set of vision, you do want to walk up and potentially contest this pink ward right here, and then get a ward down in this location. If for whatever reason you can't contest this pink ward or want to dodge this pink ward, in most situations what you can do is you can actually take the green ward and just ward it really deep, such as this. The reason for that is you're basically just abusing where the pink ward is. So in this situation, right, you ward this really deep right here, and that causes it so that if they repink this location after you take it away, it won't be in range to be pink. They'll have to either pink defensively, such as, move a pink here, or potentially sweep it, which makes them have to commit a lot more vision. Outside of that, if you're concerned about a champion possibly contesting over the wall, then your best ward is usually just right here. And the reason for that is there's usually a blast cone here, plus a lot of junglers nowadays can pop over the wall, and you want to make sure that you have as much full range of vision so that you can see whenever someone is trying to contest it over a wall. Maybe they're trying to steal it and then jump back over, or maybe abuse a blast plant, or just shoot skill shots that may try to steal it. So at that point in time, that's pretty much what you want to look at for all of the dragon situations. Next we'll tackle is the Baron vision. In most situations, you pretty much just want a centrifuge of vision. So like before, pretty much you'll see as I'm describing all sorts of vision, you always want mid control. That way you force the mid laner to step back, which then gives you access to either side of the map. So we'll do the starting point for blue side once again. So as a support on the blue side, you want to get mid pushed out. That way you're pushing in all the way. That mid laner and potentially other people that are grouping with him have to stand back and let you clear the wave. Always having a numbers advantage pretty much guarantees that you'll get access to the wave first, thereby pushing it and then allowing you to move to different locations to get wards down. Now, Baron's a little bit trickier because there's lots of points of interest that you want to be controlling. I recommend backing when you want to control Baron with multiple pinks, because if you're not receiving any help in your elo, then you're going to kind of have to do this piece by piece. So for starters, kind of the same concept as the dragon on red side. You want to pink ward this line brush right here, and then ward over the wall. The reason for that is you want to see access to if the mid laner is potentially coming over to contest, and it allows you to shoot skill shots over the wall. Now the rest is dependent on basically how much vision you can get out. In an ideal world, let's say we'll call it perfect world scenario, you have wards in these 3 locations. That way you can see all the corridors that pretty much people are coming outside of this location right here, but you should with this pressure have top pushed in. And then you can see people walking over. Now, in most situations, you don't actually get this kind of setup, and you kind of have to do a little bit of a weaker one. In this case, most of the time what I find myself being able to get in terms of vision is right here and right here. This brush right here will allow you to see most of the concave over the wall outside of the tri-bush right here, and then you get a ward on the red buff. That way you can see a little bit deeper into this. It's important that you actually ward on the tip of the brush, not in the center like this, because it'll deny as much vision. You go right here, then you'll get a lot better concave of the information that you want to know. So in a lesser ideal scenario, you usually want this as your warding situation, and if you can't get this deep, then you probably want to get it warded over here, as this kind of tethers out in terms of vision about this location. The reason for this is so that you can see people potentially contesting the Blessed Plant, and same concept as the dragon popping over the wall to potentially steal it. Now, once you've established the pink ward, ideally you want another pink ward here, and another pink ward here, just denying the maximum amount of vision. Now, let's say you're a support and no one's really helping you right here. This is why I recommend that you buy multiple pink wards at once. Then what'll end up happening is you only have this set up, right? So what you'll end up doing is, after clearing the wave, if you feel comfortable, you can then move your pink ward to the tri-bush, since you know that there's no wards here, and you have a ward right here, so you will see if anyone walks over to ward over the wall into this line brush, and it will allow you to control all of the parts of the lane. Alright, so next we'll jump over, same situation, just on the different sides. So, just as before, you are the red side, want to get mid priority, making sure that you have the wave pushed out at least to the middle of the map. And the reason for this is the same situation as before. We want to get a ward in mid lane. Now, this ward is dependent on where you can place it and where people are standing. There's a lot of times a common scenario where there's a pink ward here, so you don't want to put your ward too far over, and you want to make sure that your mid lane ward is spotting the mid lane area. You mostly just want some kind of centerpiece like this. That way you can see wherever people are walking. And same scenario, you'll basically want to have your pink ward in this line brush once again, so that you can shoot skill shots and potentially catch people. As you can see, it's kind of like, pretty much mid control is the most important part when you're wanting to contest Baron, because it's the most easiest access to getting to Baron, plus it's the least risky. If you're contesting, if you're the blue side and you've lost all vision control, you most likely want to walk like this. That way it gives you the most space to kind of juke out of spells in case people are standing in any of these brushes. You don't want to be walking through choke corridors when you don't see anything and then get hit by a bunch of spells. So, you run into this scenario right here. You want to get a ward down mid, and then usually you want your ideal wards are going to be right here and right here, or potentially a little bit deeper. Actually, this is your ideal ward. That way you're covering all three corridors once again, and we just ignore this location because your wave should kind of let you know who's moving over in this location. Now, the thing a little bit different about the red side versus the blue side is where you put your pink. Now, when you're on blue side, you want a pink inside the pit, because red side walks over and usually wards over the wall, so you want to be in range of that. Now, this dynamic changes, though, when you're on this side of the map, when you're on the red side, because blue players are walking over and trying to ward over the wall, such as this. So that means that you want your pink a little bit farther outside the pit. That way it covers all of this vicinity for when supports are potentially warding over the wall. Now, ideally, when you're playing support after that, you usually take your sweeper and run it up and down the river, making sure that you cover both of these brushes to make sure there's no wards there. Now, in situations where you can't walk up this deep, and we'll just pretend that this pink ward doesn't exist at the current time, what you'll end up doing is having more shallow wards. So, in a case where you're just trying to get quick vision and then go pull Baron immediately so you can see people walking, usually want a green ward about here. That way you're still covering the corridor over the wall. And then usually your green ward right here will be somewhere around this location. That way you're covering all of the corridors so you can see whenever someone's coming over to contest or potentially drop wards down. Now, the final part of the game is kind of like, how do you ward when there's no neutral objectives up? So pretty much in this situation, we'll be doing the same thing where I cover what the supports want to do in each of the scenarios. So let's say, for example, the top turret is up, the bottom turret is down, and you want to play to that. So pretty much in most cases, you want to just, as you can see from all of our videos, want to push out mid. The next part of it is just making sure that you have wards controlling the top side of the map. So in this case, always want to make sure that you have a ward down mid, preferably if this turret is still up, preferably right here. That way, once again, you can establish this line, shoot over skills. Then ideally, you want to get a ward here and a ward here. That way, you can transition and rotate to these sides. Pretty much most of the mid-game stuff for warding is just you want to have basically a line of sorts. So pretty much no matter what side you're on, red side or blue side, the most important ward is always warding the mid lane. That way you can see where people are rotating to, who's covering. Mid lane is the centerpiece of the map, and it allows you to rotate to both sides of the lanes, potentially for turrets, and that way you want to make sure that you always have a ward there. Then pretty much the other wards are such as, depending on whatever side you want to play to. If you want to play to bottom and your blue side, you want to ward here and ward in the jungle. That way you're covering all the 3 spots. Once again, as you can see, vision control, when you have 3 wards, is just about controlling the 3 corridors of the map that lead to either your objective or potentially cover you leading to their objective. In this case, right, you're the blue side, so you want to be able to push out mid and then rotate safely as fast as possible. These wards give you the ability to do that without getting caught as easily. Same situation, if you're on blue side and you're trying to play for top side, you ideally want wards in these 2 locations. That way, once again, you can push out mid and you can rotate. This is why the team that pushes out and moves always usually wins, because then you can ward deeper, which causes, in this case, the red side to have to walk all the way around in order to defend, which makes them slower to getting to each of the objectives, and that's how you get turrets. Same scenario pretty much on the other side. You ward for red side, you ward mid lane, and then we get wards down in the same locations pretty much as we want to control Baron, and then these 2 locations right here if we want to control the bottom side. Anyway, that's it for mid-game warding tips. Thanks for watching.